Okay, so here we've got a box plot, and it's important to understand the parts of a box plot. There are always 5 parts. We've got the lowest value, which is the start of the box plot. We've got the lower quartile, which is the start of the box. We've got the median, which is, if I can line it up right, which is the line in the box. Then we've got the upper quartile, which is the end of the box. And then we've got the highest value, which is the end. So when it asks us for the median is halfway between 10 and 12, which will be 11. And it will ask us for the interquartile range. Interquartile range, IQR for short, is the upper quartile, take away the lower quartile. So the upper quartile here is 18, and we're going to take away the lower quartile, which is halfway between 2 and 4, which will be 3. So it's 18 take away 3, which is 15. Okay, now next it says that the table shows results of cats. I think the first one was dogs. And compare the two distributions. Okay, you must always compare the medians. So looking at my dogs, or looking at my answer to the dogs, it was 11. And the median here is 15. So you need to write a sentence saying that the median for cats, which was 15, is higher than dogs, which is 11. So always state the values. Now you can also say on average they're higher because the median is 15 for the cats and only 11 for the dogs. As long as you're comparing the medians and saying which one's higher, or maybe they're the same. Okay, the interquartile range for the cats is 23 and for the dogs is 15. And the next thing you need to compare is a range. Now you could pick the overall range, or it's probably easier just using the interquartile range, and I've just done that wrong because the interquartile range for the cats obviously would be 23 take away 10, which is 13. That's very different. Right, so for the cats it's 13, for the dogs it's 15. Now 13 and 15 are not that far away, so you might say they are more or less the same, or you might say that the interquartile range is higher for the dogs. As long as you back it up with the numbers and say something that makes sense, then that's absolutely fine. The way of starting this sentence, so I said on average is kind of the way to start when you the sentence when you're comparing medians. For this one, you just say the spread of data for dogs is slightly higher than with cats. And then you'd say, since IQR, interquartile range for dogs, is 15 and for cats is 13. So whenever you're comparing the medians, you really should start with on average and then say the medians and write a comparative comment. And always start the sentence when you're comparing a range or an interquartile range with the spread of the data. And it just makes you makes the examiner realise that you know what you're talking about. Always include the numbers as well, and that's really important on some of the papers that you're referring to something. The first comparison is always the average, so the median, when you're comparing boxplots or cumulative frequency graphs, and the second one is always the range, and that's really important to remember.